Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. For this tutorial, I'm going to take a little departure from the weddings that I've been doing a lot of, and this time we're going to do a galaxy themed birthday cake. This one has a buttercream textured wrap and some chocolate decorations on the top, plus a little bit of splattering and some airbrush color. So let's get started. We need to make our gold moons. And I'm just using some fondant with some Tylose powder mixed in. Tylose helps your fondant act more like a gum paste. It sets up faster and firmer. And we're just gonna roll it out to about 1/8 of an inch thick and use my circle cutters. I ended up using 2 different sizes, and I'm using a smaller circle cutter to cut out to make a crescent shape out of the moon. You wouldn't have to do that. You could just use a ball tool and put some indentations into just a circle also. That would have been cool. I don't know why I didn't do that. But to make like a full moon and then a crescent moon, that would be cool. But anyway, enough of saying cool. We went ahead and we stuck with the 2 crescents. And I right away went in and I added the gold. I just put them on a board that I could move, and I brushed on some shortening. This is a little shortcut to add metallic to your fondant without having to wait for it to dry and then airbrush if you don't have time. This shortening just helps the luster dust stick right to it. And it's nice and shiny. Now the airbrushing the gold on is a little bit more of a permanent situation. And once it dries, it's not going to rub off. When you use this technique, sometimes you have to watch out because you can get fingerprints onto your fondant. It can kind of rub off on your finger, but if you're not worried about touching it too much and you're just needing to do something a little faster, this technique works also. And once I got the luster dust on them, I just set them aside to dry. And then we're gonna make our chocolate for the top. I'm just using, what did I use? This was just almond bark is what I used this time. This was for an order at work, and I know I typically use candy melts or regular chocolate, but for orders for work, we use almond bark a lot. And I melted some, just left it, I added a little bit of white to it. And then this one I added some navy and a little bit of black to get that deeper blue. And this is where the white that I added, because your almond bark is still, and even white chocolate, they are still kind of a yellowy off-white color, and I wanted it to be white. So I just with chocolate, I like the Color Mill because it works well with chocolate. You don't want to use a gel color because it will not mix with, it'll make your chocolate seize up. So this is an oil-based color is what this is. And I just kind of played around with these and added a little bit more of each color until I got it to the look that I wanted. So here you'll see me adding a little bit more white, and then I thought, well, that's too white. So let's go back and add some more of the blue. And my hands are clean, guys. I swear they're clean. And I just used my thumb to kind of get some more of those peaks in there. And then I just added some dragées, some white dragées and 2 different sizes, I guess 2 different sizes of the white and 2 different sizes of the gold. Just to kind of continue that kind of star appearance in your shards. And I just kind of rumpled up. It looks like a dirty towel, but I swear it's clean. It just needs to be bleached or replaced. Rumpled up towel so that they got some dimension to them, and set those aside to dry. Now we're gonna get started on the actual cake. And this is already pre-filled and crumb coated. Thank you to my coworker and friend Lacey. She got that prepared for me the day before. And I'm just using my Crusting American Buttercream to do a crumb coat. A crumb coat is going to lock in your crumbs and just kind of give you a base to build on. But definitely locking in your crumbs is the main point of that. Because if you don't do a crumb coat, sometimes you can get lucky and do 1 coat of buttercream, and there's a whole technique to it. But most of the time, I prefer to just make sure that I'm not dealing with crumbs by doing a crumb coat and then setting it into your refrigerator for 20 minutes or your freezer for 10 minutes to set up. And it is set up when you can touch it and it does not pull off onto your fingers, and it's nice and firm to the touch and not wet. And then I did a layer of the navy blue. Again, I used the navy. Actually, what I did was I used the microwave method. Let me say this right. You add less food coloring to your buttercream and then you melt it in the microwave and it deepens the color. I did that in a couple videos back. And I've been doing it a lot lately, actually. You get your depth of color with less amount of food coloring. So it works really well. You just gotta cover it with plastic wrap, so it kind of like pudding so that you don't get a skin on it. Put it in the refrigerator for about half hour to an hour until it has cooled down and you can use it. And it's nice and smooth and all the air bubbles are gone. That's a nice thing about it too. And then I just crumpled up some parchment paper. I had cut it to the width and the height of the cake. And I knew I wanted it to kind of be at an angle. So I kind of tried to keep that in mind. And you'll see here in a second that I misjudged just by a little bit, but I'll show you how to fix it. And just lift it onto your chilled cake. Again, I set that into the freezer for 10 minutes to chill before I transferred the buttercream on the parchment onto the cake. And then pop it back into the freezer after that, once you've got that stuck on there real good. And let it firm off, and that parchment pulls right off. And then you get some dimension into your buttercream without having to do much to it. And like I said, it was a little bit too wide of an angle because it's supposed to be like the Milky Way in the center. So I just used a brush and I stippled some more buttercream to bring in the sides a little bit so it wasn't so gaping where the Milky Way was going to be. And then I did use my airbrush and I just added a little bit of black here and there, not all the way, because I wanted that navy to still show, but in outer space you have depths of dark. So I wanted to add a little black, and then I just airbrushed. It was a pearl white in the center. No, I'm sorry, I take that back. It was just plain white airbrush color in the center. And then just adding some dragees. And sometimes you can get lucky that you can just kind of throw the dragees at it and they stick. And sometimes you don't. Sometimes you have to use your finger and dip it in a little bit of water and dip your finger into your dragees, pick up a few and transfer them over like that. This can take a little while, but it's well worth it. And then I just added some. These are just star sprinkles. You could make them with cutters and fondant if you want to, but shortcuts are a welcome thing. So I just went ahead and used the already made ones, and that made my life a whole lot easier. Then I just threw some more of those smaller dragees, the white ones, and I think there's some gold ones in there too, in the center. But I knew I was going to do this splatter, and don't mind that big splatter. I did end up camouflaging that a little bit. Sometimes that happens. You can say it's a shooting star maybe. But it's just the white airbrush color. Again, dipping my fan brush in there and just splattering it on. I just made sure to hold my brush at an angle, a diagonal, so that it would mimic the angle on the cake. And then I added a few more dragees and then trying to camouflage my extra white there a little bit, or adding more to it as it looks like I did. I think it still looked good. And then I am just basically taking these chocolate shards and just sticking them in the top. If you have a problem getting them in there, you can go ahead and make a little slice in the buttercream and then stick it in, but I honestly didn't have to. The buttercream was soft enough still that I was able to do that. Probably because I had been working with it and it was coming to room temperature from being, chilled in the previous steps. So it worked just fine. Sorry about my back and my arm being in the way there. It's really hard to find good angles when you are doing this, where you're not getting in your own way and not causing your camera to go out of focus on you. Then I just popped in the topper and I put a little buttercream behind the moons and just put one on the top and one on the bottom. Tried to. There we go. Good job, Mary. You can do this. And I just touched up where I had touched that with the brush that still had some luster dust on it. And there it is, all done, guys. I know this one's a little bit more simple and a little bit not what you're used to seeing me do all the time, but we're coming to the end of wedding season and things are going to change up a little bit. I hope you still liked it and I hope you learned a few things, and we'll catch you on the next one.